What's up guys, John from Bennett's Customs. We're back on another episode. You guys know that this has been a pretty twisted body from day dot. So we have, obviously trying to get rid of all that. And what I want to do in this is a very major part of the body attaching to the frame itself. You guys have been following along. You know that we've done a 2.5-inch channel, full custom subframe, complete custom floor. We want to do some structural bits to the A and B pillar to be able to fit this body down over the channel floor. And will be just some simple brackets, some simple blending techniques, a few tips and tricks along the way, but it's just definitely a major part in order to have it very structural, safe, and make sure it fits the part. So let's get straight into the video. So you've obviously been following along. And we were able to create those really neat little aluminum kind of feet, I call them. So that's why we are working on the A pillar and B pillar. So A pillar being your A pillar, which is usually to the front, always actually the front. A pillar to the front, B pillar, then you got your C pillar, if there was another one here, and so on through the alphabet. This being the A pillar, on a Model A, the door attaches to the front of it. On a Model 40, like a 33, 34, they mount on the back side on your B pillar. So we want to make sure that these are very structural. They take up, basically the majority of the structure to fix to the floor. So I want to make sure that we create a really nice mount that comes off of here that fixes directly to our subframe. I have the floor on top. It is laid down and it is plug welded. I am going to trim that little area out to make sure that our A pillar is directly welded to the actual structure itself. I don't want to weld it to the sheet metal because that's not strong enough. There's only one plug weld right there, and I want to make sure that our sheet metal is kind of sort of shaped around it. In the back, same deal. I've already started to kind of work it out. We've shimmed this up a little bit. The reason being is I wanted that little bit of an attitude, that little bit of a lean to the body itself. On the side where this B pillar comes down, it's actually welded to a bit of 1/4-inch flat bar similar to this. And that was because we wanted to shim it out to actually fit really nicely both sides. So the body right now is sitting on top of this, but not bolted or welded down at all. And it slides over like really nice. Like it's a very tight tolerance. So you got to wiggle it a little bit and then it sort of slides down. Reason being to doing that is because I wanted it to slide down and I wanted to be able to get a really nice weld down here, as well as prior to doing that, I'm going to mark out where this is going to go once we pull the body off, and I'll kind of be cutting a bit of the sheet metal of the floor out for our mounts. I'm going to drill a hole on the back side where that's going to be. So that means when we have this thing up connected to the floor, I can plug weld it from the back side. So it'll have a plug weld from the back side of here to that, and that will also just be a little bit of more extra insurance. You can't over-engineer your pillars. You really want to make sure that they are very strong, very sturdy, and they're obviously doing a lot of the work. Everything is going to be crazy strong and really tight, which is exactly what we want. I want you to be able to just pull this whole body with the floor off and then just plop it straight back down. These will just line up perfectly, boom, away you go. The biggest thing about these bodies is your lineup or your fitment is purely going to be where your wheel well is going to be sitting in here. So you don't want to have this body set up and say, okay, well, my hood is 2 inches too short for putting it on here, so we're going to slide the body forward. That means that your wheel well is going to be off by your wheel. So that line is so crucial to make sure that this here is perfectly gapped all the way around your wheel. You want to have that spot on. Even if you're lowering this, if this was heavily channeled and we sectioned it and the wheel was sitting up past the top of the trunk, it doesn't matter. You still want to have that center line of here to the center line of your axle. And then wherever the body sits is kind of where it's going to go. Maybe some people will disagree with that, but I just feel like, your initial lines to your wheels, to your fenders, if those things are off, or your front wheel, your back wheel's slightly cockeyed, it's really going to show. So I got a little bit of 10 by 50 flat bar, and this is what I'm actually gonna use underneath. It's the perfect sort of setup to kind of get the radius that I want. So I'm just gonna cut a little piece and I'll put it in there and I'll kind of explain what I'm thinking of doing. So the biggest thing is I'm just taking off the mill scale. I know that guys soak their black steel or their mild steel in vinegar. I think vinegar does the same thing, which is really cool, but you definitely want to get rid of this stuff if you are going to be, you know, either especially if you're TIG welding it, because it'll, yeah, it does not like it. You'll get heaps of porosity. I owned one of these. I had one when I was in a little small workshop at home, and I never could get it to run properly, but not to like sell a product by any means. I'm not, that's not what our channel's here to do. We just, you know, the tools that are supplied from Metal Master and Heron Forbes has been incredible. But this thing is like, it's crazy how nice it is to use a cold saw. Like you can just hang off the thing and it just cuts so quickly. You guys remember I was always using my tiny little saw, especially when I'm doing all my stainless exhaust work. And I'd be just sitting there and I'd just put it on automatic and I'd have to walk away, and I could go walk away and have like a 10-minute conversation and come back and it would just be cutting it. So if you guys are cutting steel a lot, like obviously a horizontal bandsaw works incredible, or I mean, sorry, a vertical bandsaw. But yeah, gee whiz, this thing. It's just like that quick, and it gives you such a nice cut. Yeah, I think, you know, I don't know, I geek out on tools a lot, more than I usually used to as well. I was always kind of wanted to get the car parts and all that stuff, but now I kind of like selling car parts in order to get more tools. So, spoiler alert, I got a new tool, got a Bridgeport mill. Been looking for one for ages, and was able to find one local with a guy. We made a bit of a deal on some car parts, and was able to get one. So I'm really excited to get that down in the next few days or few weeks probably. It's put it in somewhere. I have no idea where. I'm thinking maybe here, but then we got the lathe there, and sometimes we got, you know, a lot of stuff that hangs out the lathe. Who knows? There seems like there's a lot of room in here, but there's a lot of stuff too. But a lot of it is going to be put into storage. This area usually has cardboard here. This is where I do my breakdancing in the morning, just to get, you know, limber and moving and, you know, crack a sweat. But think this area is going to be the area where the fast cut CNC table is going to sit and reside and create and make. That's why nothing is bolted down at the moment. You can see I've raised this up too. That's kind of scary, but just trying to lift everything, get it up to a better working height. Obviously perfect working height for anyone that's average height, but I'm definitely not. So this is a little bit better. Yeah, a little off topic, but it's, you know, you can kind of understand what we're trying to set up here. Even just the way, like working bays for the cars too. We got Ben's Roadster there, and I've just sort of set them up on a bit of an angle, thinking, hey, maybe this could be a good way of working on stuff, but yeah, just quite haven't found the full sweet spot of going, oh yeah, okay, that's gonna work out. So anyways, back to the Coupe. So this is my little piece that I just cut, that 10 by 50, 60 mil long. That's gonna replace these two shims. It's gonna sit like that. I'm just gonna radius the edges, and then we're gonna trace it out on the steel so that when we pull this off, I can cut the sheet metal away so that we can get a very nice weld all the way around. That's going to hold it onto there. And then maybe, I don't know, there's like an old little rivet that was put on this B-pillar. I don't mind the idea. That's going to sit in there. So I'm going to cut a couple more. And then we're going to try and line them all up and get them shimmed into place. Then we're going to trace it all, and then we're going to lift the body off so I can trim out that steel. What I'm thinking is, That's gonna be there. This piece is gonna sit up underneath it like that, and now that's gonna fill the whole void. So we got something that's quite sturdy, obviously being the 10 mil, it's quite, you know, thick. And then we have something really nice to weld to here, and then same thing back here, stick that one in there like that. And I don't know who actually made this structure, and I like how they kind of used this little rivet in there. It was just kind of like a little touch. So I dug through my little garage sale stash. You guys have seen me use these. I used them on the Midnight Special. I've actually used these the proper way of using them when I was doing the sort of boxing plates and the rear 32 cross member on my 32 frame for the Roadster project. But what I'm thinking is I would like to utilize these. We could do two, or maybe we can just do a center one and kind of have a nice round radius on that. I think would look really cool. All right, so we got our piece here. I'm just over on the big belt sander, and we're gonna use that to radius the edge that we have scribed. We have our two holes here now that will hold our rivets, and on the back side, I just countersunk them to allow us to get a nice little weld around the shank so that we can smooth them off nice and flush, because this will end up sitting down hard on the subframe, and we will weld all the way around it. All right, so we got the little feet cleaned up, and all I did was just weld those little rivets in there so they look like a faux rivet. If Ben swings around this side, I'll just dip my head in here. The one thing that I don't really like, but I'm gonna have to live with it, is just the offset of this original rivet to this guy here. But you kind of get the idea of what I'm trying to do, but I want to make this side flush. That's why I've tapered that edge right through so I can get a nice weld through here. And then I'll be able to weld all the way down there as well. But what I want to do is, I'm probably going to MIG it, but I wouldn't mind actually trying to get a few tacks on it. Kind of thinking I might TIG it now that I just said I'd MIG it, but I might. Whatever I do, I could probably do a bit of both. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, so I got the portion of them tacked into place with the MIG, and I'm just gonna do the side pieces, the little uprights that I was explaining on the B pillar. I'm just gonna do those on the A pillar. That way I can throw a sling through all this, and then we should be able to just lift this right up, and then I should be able to gain access if we can maybe even get it onto the fab table, or I may even just rig it up so that I can just sit it on the forklift and just have it hung with a bunch of slings, and I can just sit in there and weld them all up. And now I have access inside here, because I trust everything, to be able to weld all those mounts up. And then once those are done, we'll clean them all up, flush them, and then we can actually take it all off. But the good thing is it's all supported through that structure that we put in there to make sure that there was no twist or anything in the body. So that's the bonus of putting that in and kind of over-engineering it, welding as many braces as you can. Motherfucker. Oh, it's in my boot. You fucking fuck. Ow. Oh, serves me right. Should have wore pants. Never wear shorts welding. I'm just trying to clean up the area on the factory A pillar where it's going to meet these mounts. I want to try and TIG weld the tops just to sort of make it look nice. The other bits that are obviously MIG welded, I wasn't trying to make a perfect weld because I'm just gonna blend it all anyways. Little tip for you, if you guys are trying to weld but you don't have access to be able to get the filler rod in, bend your filler rod. That way, I'm left-handed, so obviously I'm gonna use my right hand as filler, but I can weld and I can dab the filler in there as I go. Easy little trick, usually works really well. Ooh, this is gonna be another tip as well. I've probably explained this one in previous videos, but when you're TIG welding, obviously you want to have both hands stationary and stable. You don't want to be trying to balance here and try and work that. It will not work. So whatever you can do to make like a little rest, I always just use like a little G clamp, and that way I can just rest my hand on it, and then again I just do sort of a dummy pass, knowing I'm going to be able to access the area I want. And then that kind of just helps stabilize your hands while you're TIG welding. All right, so we're over at the floor slash kind of side of the channel, and this sits off a 1/4 inch from the frame all the way like around the entire surface. So once this body is bolted onto that, it'll kind of slide off and then slide back down over top. But the biggest thing was I was trying to explain, so this is where that tab is gonna sit, and then down here is where that piece will sit. So what I want to do is, even if I just do, say 4 holes or 1 big one, I want to do this, like drill it out so there's nothing there, so that when we tack it on the top, and I can even do it in this actually, I was thinking that, so that I don't actually have to remove this part either, because it was going to be a lot of work and there's also quite a few spot welds throughout it. So I will just weld the tab directly down to this floor, but then we will have a couple of holes drilled so that once it's tacked and we lift the whole thing up, I'll be able to plug weld the back sides of this. And that's just gonna add a little bit more strength, a little bit more reassurance, and a little bit more security for making sure that the A and B pillar are very structural to the floor and the channel itself. What I'm gonna do now is probably just put a bit of copper weld through primer on those mounts and everything that we've just done, and then we are just going to go and fit the body back down onto it. Prior to doing that, I am going to trim out the firewall, because the firewall makes very close contact to the distributor, and obviously the vacuum advance, it does not have any advance or retard, being that it is so close to the firewall. So we are going to have to make a whole new floor. This will probably get pulled back to about here to have our little kick panels, and then we're going to have to make a full tunnel setup. The transmission mount for the gear shift, I thought it was a transmission mounted one, but it's actually a floor mounted, and that's purely just like a nice low car, pretty generic setup. So once we have the body down on the floor and sort of mocked up and tacked into place, then we can actually get inside, cut that cage out, and then that will give us access to be able to create this in a future video. So I'll be doing a full wire buck paper template, and basically trying to create a really nice transmission tunnel and little void or area on the firewall that still looks factory, but then will give you enough room for the distributor to be able to retard and advance. So that's going to be really cool. And another really good video on that too is making sure you probably all follow Carl at Make It Custom, but the little 30 Roadster that he's been building for a client, he in early days had created a really neat little setup there. So it's a great little video talking about his wire buck and his paper template. So I'll be definitely refreshing my memory on that and jumping straight into this, trying to create something really nice. So, bit of weld through primer on all these bits, these areas here on the A and B pillar, and then I'll pull these wedges back out. These wedges are just holding the floppy body. As you can see, we still have a little bit of work to making sure everything's gonna fit nicely. And then once that's done, we're gonna just swing this back right over top of the floor, chassis, rolling frame, whatever you wanna call it, and see how it fits. And then I'll be able to stick this back on, and then we'll have a very nice area to do some nice welds to connect the A and B pillar to the frame, and then we can slowly start working our way to the back section. So tunnel, again, I mentioned tunnel, firewall, and then in the back here, we still need to do some wheel wells, and then again in the back area, sort of where this is still quite flimsy. This still needs tons of repair in this section here. Obviously you can see that this was a factory panel, but it was beaten to death. It's got so much pitting in it, and down towards the bottom half is where it's got barely any material left. So that's gonna be in a whole nother one, trying to replicate those rear lower corners. But I'm gonna make some really neat, like kind of wheel well, I guess tub areas, whatever you wanna call them. Using a bit of hammer forming, probably going to be using the power hammer, similar to what we did with the floor. So that'll be really cool, make a nice little neat shape for that, something that, you know, kind of replicates stock, but a little bit different, little maybe custom flair to it. And I also want to make them not straight across like they traditionally are on these 32 frames where they're usually clipped. I want to actually add a little bit of style to it that we will emulate in there, and that's also giving us room for the axle, because when that is dead straight, it actually sits directly on the axle. And if we want to lower this anymore with the coilovers in the rear, we need to have that area. So these will kind of have a little bit of a sweep to them, and then we'll do a little cool, whatever you want to call it. So let's set this back on, see how it fits, and then we'll go from there. So I don't know exactly how this is gonna go, but a little bit of shimmy shimmy cocoa bear will get it on there. Gee whiz, for a first shot, not bad. It's like directly where it needs to be. Little did we know, it was right in the area. So that's how tight the tolerances are, because we wanted them nice and tight so that we have a good weld. But there we go. Geez, how tight is it? Maybe I made it really tight. It's got to be like, so it's on an angle at the moment going like this, and it needs to go directly straight. So we have very tight tolerances. Oh my gosh. What has happened there? We're a couple mil from it actually working. I don't know how much pull we're gonna get, but let's definitely try it. Well, I can move the forklift actually if you want. Or, yeah, I probably need to,
Yeah.
Fuck, I just want to make sure I don't need to take that off to grind it. Oh! Oh, okay, hold on. If you just kind of lift it up just a little bit, if you can.
Ready?
Yep. Wow. Fucking hell. There's no way it shrunk that much. What am I doing wrong here?
I mean, you can go forward like definitely 5 mil if that's where those marks are at. That might make all the difference.
Oh yeah, definitely. Wow, so it is just fucking crazy tight. Well, that's really good though. All right, so now we have it back on the frame itself, and you can kind of see what we were trying to do. So we got a really nice clean area all the way around here, and that is going to be fully welded all the way around. So I'll probably TIG weld that just to make a nice weld with, you know, a fair amount of heat and good penetration. And then again, with those holes drilled from the top and the bottom, we'll be able to weld it all. So the A and B pillar are going to be very structural to the actual floor itself. And then obviously once bolted down, it's going to be really good. So super happy with the way they turned out. Again, slightly a little bulky to what I wanted to do. Maybe the rivets were a bit of overkill, but I don't know. I'm kind of happy with how it's turned out. And again, like just the way that it slides right over the frame, and it's like the tolerances are really tight, which is epic. So we'll be able to square it up a little bit more, and I should be able to weld those once I drill the holes in this. So then again, yeah, moving into the back section, as well as I do want to do something in this area. I mentioned in the beginning, and it would be nice to maybe run something through the power hammer with that die that we had used before, and then maybe something to do with down here. Because originally what I was thinking about, not to get off topic, but when I do this new door skin, I was thinking about just running the door skin without a line here. So just come down and end. It would be very similar to this. And then what I could do is the body line or the door would end there, but the body line of this would actually continue all the way through here. So we'd get sort of this would come in, and then there would be a bit of a line, and then I could maybe make it come down and have that. That way, when you go to shut the door, it actually kind of shuts on something, so it sort of seals it from the outer elements. Whether or not I actually go through with that idea or not, that'll be in a future video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, whether we do run a really nice body line all the way across, connecting everything, and then have the door kind of sit down into it. So it may look kind of cool, it may not, but definitely we need to address these doors in a future episode. So we still got lots to do on this, but you guys can see it evolve. You can see what we're trying to do with it. I love the overall stance of this coupe. I think it looks so nice, and you know, the paint and interior ideas that we have for it, and just kind of the overall, I can already see what the vision of what it looks like. I think it's going to be something, you know, really, really nice. So yeah. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Bit of simple fabrication, not too, you know, extensive there for sure. But again, you know, these are the steps that need to be taken in order to do what we're trying to do with this car. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit notifications. For those who are still watching right to the end of the video, we have something to announce. These are up on our website, but we haven't told anyone yet. So if you are watching this and you guys want to get a new t-shirt graphic, make sure you jump onto our website and get them before we start telling the public. This is the Bi-Sply Cowboys t-shirt, designed and done by myself, Ben, and Evan Dropmoot. We'll put his link in the description. Make sure you get over. Very talented guy, very humble guy, and amazing to deal with. We've kind of done all of our graphics with him, but make sure you jump on quick because the Popeye ones basically lasted like 10 hours on our website and they were sold out. But if you guys kind of get the pun in here, hopefully some of you do, but you know, everyone that is rocking Bi-Splies out there, keep it up. No radial tires in this workshop.
Vintage white.
Yeah, vintage white, Firestone inspired. On the back, we got the little Firestone guy, little cowboy guy, trying to ride the old bumpy Bi-Sply. Yeah, really proud of this graphic. So if you guys want to support the channel in a very small way, jump on, grab a t-shirt, it goes a long ways. Thanks guys. We'll see you next week on Bennett's Customs.